Good day, class. Welcome to Introduction to Psychology. This is our first class on this course. Today we are looking at a very important foundation. What exactly is psychology? Now, before I go deep, let me ask you, when you hear the word psychology, what comes to your mind? I know some of you may think, those people that can read your mind. Others may say, oh, they are like prophets, they know what you are thinking. Some may even think psychologists are native doctors in suits or people who hypnotize others. Well, class, all these are misconceptions. My name is Adefemi, and I am your lecturer for today. And today we are on Introduction to Psychology, Module 1, Unit 1. By the end of this unit, you should be able to describe the concept of psychology and define the concept of psychology in a specific way. Moving further, what then is psychology? In simple terms, psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. So let me unpack this definition so that we can get a clearer understanding. The term scientific means it follows evidence, not guesswork. For example, like how NAFDAC tests drugs before they approve it. A psychologist also carry out research on their patient before coming up with a conclusion. Number two terms, behavior. Things you can see people doing. Example, talking, fighting, crying, refusing to write in class, and so on and so forth. Number three term, mental processes. Things happening in the mind that we cannot see directly. So which are the way that, they think, plan, feel jealous, fall in love, and so on and so forth. So going further with, an example. Imagine a student in Unilag who always sits alone. Some classmates immediately say he is proud. Others say he is depressed. Another group says he is possessed spiritually. So, common sense gives different answers, but psychology asks, what is the real reason? Has he experienced bullying before? Does he have social anxiety? Or is he an introvert? So instead of judging, psychology investigates scientifically. Now, to elaborate more on that common sense thing. Now, is psychology the same as common sense, class? Is it the same thing? Okay. Now, we often hear this that birds of a feather flock together, which we all interpret to mean people with similar traits stays together. Another say opposites attract, which also mean people with different traits attract. Right? So that is the way common sense reason. But in psychology, we don't apply common sense reasoning to come up with a conclusion. Psychology does not jump to conclusion, it does research. Now, examples of, psychology in real life. During the COVID-19, some Nigerians believe it was 5G or government scam, right? And psychology explanation is that mass psychology explanation is that people reject what they don't understand. So people's behavior was based on the fact that they don't understand it. Another example, why do people loot during crisis? For example, in South Africa, or even during the NSAS, we see, people looting different warehouses across the nation. Psychology's explanation is that it's crowd behavior, mob mentality that led them to that. Now, another example, why do fraudsters, e.g. Yahoo boys, keep scamming even after arrest? Psychology explanation is based on reinforcement. When you gain reward before punishment, you repeat behavior. So, you see, Yahoo boys, they've been making so much money, I believe, from their um, act for a while before they were caught. Even though they were caught, and when they're set free, they go back easily into committing the same crime. Another example, why are Nigerians addicted to TikTok or WhatsApp status? Psychology explanation is this: dopamine reward system, same system that drives gambling, you know, dopamine reward system. Now, as we move further in this course, you will, get to understand some of these terminologies. Okay, moving further, why psychologists don't all agree on one definition? You know, the fact that we gave you a very simple explanation, I gave you a very simple explanation of psychology earlier, doesn't mean everybody agrees with that in that field. You know, um, psychology is still young, unlike chemistry that has existed for centuries. Modern psychology officially began around 1879 with Wilhelm Wundt in Germany. You know, so psychology is very broad, and different psychologists focus on different things or different areas of, you know, um, human life. Types of psychologists. We have educational psychology. You know, um, their area of focus is on how students learn, and this educational psychologist is very important for teachers. You know, in some countries, for you to be a certified teacher or lecturer, you need to, have this educational psychology background. Number two, clinical psychology. Um, this has to do or focus on treating mental illness, e.g., depression, addiction, and so on and so forth. Number three, industrial psychologists. Well, their area of focus is in workplace behavior. Um, for example, why bank workers resign due to pressure. You know, um, well, there is also forensic psychologist. The area of focus is on crime and behavior. You know, this is very useful in criminology and policing. You know, yeah, that's by the way. Moving further, why study animals in psychology? I mean, some people will say, we never study human being finish, we dey study animal. You know, some of you may ask that question. So, why do psychologists study rats and pigeon? Are we animals? Well, rats respond to reward and punishment just like humans. So if you put food at the end of a maze, a rat will learn the path. Same way a child learns when, given sweet after doing homework. So animals help us understand human behavior safely, especially when experiments may be too risky for humans. So, in summary, um, psychology is not magic or guesswork, right? So, it is a scientific study of behavior and the mind. It uses experiments, observations, and research to understand people. It helps in education, crime prevention, marriage counseling, business, politics, religion, and nation building. So, before we close today, in one sentence, how would you define psychology using your own experience? Um, I will appreciate it if I get your answer on the comment.